Hey guys, welcome back to another exclusive Dead Matter developer interview. I won't give away too much here, but I will say that there is some exclusive footage that Abiscuits has kindly provided us, which looks at the vehicles and the interaction system within the vehicles. We also asked for a little bit of feedback later on in the video from the community, so be sure to stick this one out. For all of you following these videos, I also wanted to give you a quick heads up that we have purchased the backer weapon package, and we will have our own weapon in the game. We've selected the Remington 700, and I hope to show you some sneak peek of that very soon. Thanks guys, and enjoy the interview. Okay, so Abix, or Abiscuits, whichever you're known as. I know on Discord you're known as Abiscuits, and on Twitch it's Abix, so forgive me for default into one of those. Tell us a bit more about you and your role in the team. Like, what is it that you do for Dead Matter?
So pretty much, I'm kind of like just a kind of general UE4 user. Like I'm kind of alright at everything, including programming, but not as good as Johnny or Gunslinger. So anything that's not too crazy, I can handle. So I'm kind of good at like a filler role.
Yep.
Mainly, it's been vehicles though. That's really what got me on.
Vehicles. Okay, that's interesting. I think that's going to be, I'm hoping at least, that's going to be like a really big point for the game. And I'm sure that, you know, as we talk about it a little bit more and kind of go off on our little tangents and stuff like that, as we always do in these interviews, we'll learn a lot more about them and really see how they're shaping up at the minute. So before we get stuck into that, I'd like to ask, how did you join the project, and how long have you been working with the team now?
So I've known Johnny, the lead developer, since pretty much back in the mod days. I used to moderate his forums. But then we kind of got out of touch for a few years, and then it wasn't until around 2016 that we really started talking, because we both kind of started using UE4, trying to make survival games. But officially, it wasn't until late June this year that I actually hopped onto the team.
Okay, so you kind of knew about the project, and you knew what he was working on and what the team was doing, and kind of, I guess, followed it and maybe helped here and there, provided a bit of advice and...
Yeah, we agreed a long time ago that I'd be doing the vehicles. It was just kind of a matter of a time until I would actually join the team.
Okay, that's cool. That's really interesting to learn. I think from what I'm hearing from the other devs as well so far, like a lot of you guys seem to go quite a way back, and you know each other before joining the team, which I mean could only be a positive thing, right? It always pays if you're on good terms with the people you work with. So to me, that's a really good thing, and you guys seem like you get on really, really well. But kind of before this team, can you tell me a little bit about the experience you have in this field? Like, have you done anything like this in the past, or is this something completely new to you?
So in terms of actual proper game dev skills, before I started using UE4, I didn't really have any. Like, I've always wanted to make games, but I never really had like a good platform I could do it on. It wasn't until I downloaded UE4 back in 2015 that I really started to learn how to make things.
And just for the people that aren't aware, that are watching this right now, might be wondering what UE4 is. That's Unreal Engine 4,
helps,
right? Yeah. No, I just wanted to clarify, because I know a lot of people won't have a clue what that is at the minute. Okay, so let's move on to the main topic for discussion. So, vehicles. I know, as you've just said, your main point to work on in Dead Matter is the vehicles. And before we go into too much detail on that, can you tell us what kind of vehicles we're expecting for Dead Matter?
So the main category for vehicles, we would be bikes, cars, trucks, planes, helicopters, maybe boats. We'll see what happens with that. And then a couple of trains around the map, maybe.
Okay, that's really interesting, because I mean, some of those obviously aren't super common in survival games like this in the past. Like, I mean, you say maybe boats, but then we've got trains and stuff like that. That's a really unique point. So that's interesting you mentioned those. We're gonna come back to that later, but before that, I'd like to kind of ask, with the vehicles, are we going to be able to use them for storage as well?
So in terms of storage, pretty much all of them will have kind of your normal container style inventory grid system. It'll be like different sizes depending on the vehicles. Some vehicles like go-karts or lawnmowers won't have storage because they're kind of a meme vehicle. They're not really meant to be useful. But
Yeah,
other than just normal storage, I'd kind of like to have at least something unique for each vehicle. Say, like if you're driving a fire truck, you can also use it to store water.
Okay, that's interesting. I can see that. That would be like a really interesting feature, actually, because then that, I guess, gives you a reason to seek out that vehicle, right? Or,
yeah. Other than just like looking at which vehicle has the biggest storage, you can kind of compare the unique features and think, all right, which ones do I need?
Yeah, and I suppose that will change depending on what kind of situation you're in as well. Like, have you got the supplies to build water storage, for example? And if you don't, maybe if you come across a fire engine, you think, oh, well, that's going to be really useful for me. I can store water in this. But obviously, I'm aware of the fact that's just an example. On the topic of storage as well, and these kind of unique things that Dead Matter is doing, which other survival games might not have done just yet, we're also getting vehicle trailers, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Cool. Can you tell me a bit more about how these work and what sort of vehicles are going to be able to tow these?
So in terms of trailers, there's a couple of main types. You got ones which pretty much act as just extra storage, whether it's just actual normal inventory storage or whether you're actually dragging another car on top of it. And then you also got ones where it's like that barrel looking one which can store fuel or water. And then we've got the generator one which can have floodlights attached to it, or you can just use it as like a normal generator. So say that the power grid isn't set up and you got a house you'd like to look at, you can drive up, hook the generator up to the side of the house and kind of get it running temporarily.
Okay, that's really interesting. So again, we're not just seeing like basic storage, we're seeing different things being stored and even having like utility use, like you've just mentioned with the power.
Kind of like an extra feature hooked onto the back of your car.
I really like that because, I mean, all sorts of features like that, right? Like the small things are what come together to make like the experience, right? So rather than just building a base, we've got it built, you know, easy, done, now we just need to defend it. We're worrying about all these other things that come into play, and we're always looking for something to go and find and gather and try and get our hands on. So I like that, and especially offering different options with regards to power as well. That's really, really interesting. Thank you for clearing that up. With regards to vehicles in other survival games, such as like DayZ, for example, we've seen quite an... I don't know if in-depth is the right word, but with regards to kind of vehicle repairs, it works in a very specific way, and we need to go and find these parts that are needed for the vehicle. Can you tell me a bit more about how this is going to work with Dead Matter?
So for planned vehicle repairs and maintenance, the ones I know about are pretty much, in terms of engine stuff, you got a lot of like your spark plugs, oil filter, radiator and engine coolant. And then we got a couple of unique ones, like you can wear out your brake pads if you use them too crazily. So if you find a vehicle and you start using it, you better do a couple of brake checks first, just in case.
Yeah, otherwise we'll end up going down a road, like downhill somewhere, and we'll find the brakes don't work.
And then in terms of one that affects zombies is you could have a damaged muffler or exhaust. So when you're using that thing, it'd be really loud and pretty much a death sentence. Because you'd have bloody hordes chasing after you.
Okay, that's really cool. So again, some unique considerations coming into play when it comes to that sort of thing. It's not just a straight, if your vehicle's damaged, it's going to drive differently. It's actually making you think more about why you want to repair that and what that's going to cause for you.
Yeah, we like repairing things that straight up don't like immobilize your vehicle. Like if you're missing a wheel, like you can't use that thing. But if you're missing your lights or your brake pads or your exhaust, you can use the vehicle. You just got to consider the downsides now.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So again, with the lights, we wouldn't be able to drive. Well, we would, but perhaps not as effectively drive at night if we didn't have lights. It's really small things like that again, which I'm surprised other survival games, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think any other survival games have considered that sort of thing before, but it's really small things like that that make it unique. And I think it's very hard to quantify like how many of these unique things Dead Matter is bringing to the table, but these are just some examples, and it's things to be excited about, I think, at least. So it's really interesting that you mention all of that. So we know a little bit more about vehicle repairs and what that could mean for your vehicle. Is there kind of anything else that we're going to have to bear in mind when keeping our vehicle? Like, is it going to change over time? What are we going to have to keep our eye out for?
The biggest change would probably be trying to use a vehicle in winter. Because
Right.
if you're trying to start the engine when that thing's frozen cold, you're not going to have a good time. If you're trying to travel with a destroyed windscreen, you're going to be a bit chilly.
Right.
So I reckon
okay.
out of everything, winter will probably be the most brutal one.
That's really cool. I don't know. Maybe this is digging into it a little bit too much, but what about like physically driving through, let's say, like snow, for example? Or like, is that going to have an effect on the condition of certain parts of your vehicle, perhaps? Or how is that going to come into play?
So I can make it so driving through snow or slippery surfaces, I can make it actually drive differently.
Yeah.
Whether or not we actually make it affect vehicle parts would more be of a design decision. Whether or not it would be fun or not. It's like the same thing how you could make it that your wheels wear out over time or lose air. But it would be realistic, but would it be fun in a game?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this was something that me and Shirk talked about briefly in another interview, was that you guys are very conscious about bringing the fun parts to the game. And I think in Shirk's words, he said, if it's realistic and cool, but it doesn't add to the enjoyment of the game and it's not very enjoyable, then it won't be in there, because you guys are very conscious of the fact that you want people to enjoy it, even if it means that it's going to be dropping those slightly more realistic interactions, I guess, like that one that we've just talked about. That's really cool to learn that things are going to change over time. And I think that's one of the biggest draw points for Dead Matter, right? I mean, with things changing over time, not just with vehicles, with everything.
You join a server, and depending on how long the server's been up for, you could have a completely different experience.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. I can't wait for that. I think it's very Project Zomboid reminiscent, and I'm absolutely okay with that. I'm absolutely okay with it. I played a lot of Project Zomboid when I was actually, funny story, when I was in university, and we didn't have like great internet during the weekdays because all the students were there, and everybody was using the internet at the same time. And me and one of my hallmates had Project Zomboid, and of course you can play locally on Project Zomboid. So we used to like LAN connection it and just play co-op Project Zomboid together. It was great fun. Used to love that game and how it changed over time. Very punishing.
There was a couple
really
of times we actually played. We started a Project Zomboid server with the community, and man, the things we got up to.
Yeah. Oh. That's really cool. So was that when you guys were trying to Like maybe trying to do a little bit of research or just for a bit of fun?
Oh, we're just having fun, but yeah, like you think of a lot of ideas and stuff, and you're just playing other games. You're like, how can I improve this, or what is something else I can do?
I suppose that goes for you guys, like with that developer mindset, right? When you get into that way of thinking, things just kind of, you pick features and think, like you say, how can I improve this? Will this work in Dead Matter if I were to tweak this around? Or and that's really cool, because we've talked about this in other interviews as well. You guys seem to be drawing like the best parts from other survival games and looking at them and saying, does this work? Will this work in our game? How can we change this to work better? How, if it doesn't work, do we scrap it or do we change it entirely? I really like that way of looking at it. I think this is just another example of that. So interesting to hear that you guys played that as well, and I guess as well, community interaction, really awesome. Really behind that. Back onto the topic of vehicles. Will we find vehicles in like various states of repair?
Yeah, so definitely when you find a vehicle out in the wild, it won't be in the best condition. Depending on how long the server's been up, we still want them to be kind of usable. Or if they're not usable, at least kind of easy to get it into a drivable condition.
Right, I see what you mean. So again, perhaps not going as far as DayZ, where you've got like a busted engine, the fuel tank's crapped out, you've not got any wheels on it, you need to go and get 3 wheels or something.
And then you're pretty much down to RNG whether you can find those specific parts.
Yeah, exactly. So you're looking at more like having to fix a couple of pieces to get it in a drivable state, but again, coming back to other pieces might not be in top condition.
Yeah, so you have like different quality pieces and whatnot, just so you kind of got a progression path for your vehicle.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that, because progression is definitely what keeps me playing games, and I'm sure a lot of other people in the same boat there. So just to clarify, when we find a vehicle, if it's towards like the start of the server, let's say day 1, our vehicle's going to be, generally speaking, in better condition than later down the line, say like a month in.
Oh yeah, definitely. They'll be much easier to use. Even a month in, it won't be too hard to get it working, but you might have a bit more of a list to repair.
That makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. I can see why that would be that way. Because like you say, with weather conditions, cars getting left out in the rain, in the snow, I can see why that might change things. And again, it's just it's realistic, and it's not detracting from the enjoyment of the game, right? So absolutely see why that would be something you guys want to do. With regards to driving in particular as well, now I realize this might be a difficult question to ask at the moment, and I absolutely understand if you guys don't have an answer for this. But is there any games, just for like relation for other viewers, is there any games that you can relate the driving to? Like, were there any games that you looked at and said, I like the driving in this game, I want it to be similar?
With our vehicles, I've really tried to make them not feel kind of slippery. Like I hate when you jump in a game, you're pretty much sliding around the vehicle. Like the tires got a lot of grip. So probably the most similar one might be something like old DayZ mod Armor 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can. It's been a while. It's been many years. I think I was back in school back then.
One of the biggest problems with vehicles is trying to make them not flip. Because I mean, if you're driving really fast, you turn really fast, you should flip, but it's you gotta kind of balance how easy it is to flip.
Yeah, I mean, you're not gonna go around a corner at like 40 miles an hour and flip the vehicle over. It's gonna be a more grounded response. So that's interesting to hear that you guys are thinking about that as well, and just trying to keep it realistic, but like you say, the tires having grip and things like that, making it easier perhaps for people to drive. I like the sound of that, and I think DayZ Armor 2 mod is like a really good comparison, because like so many people have played that back in the day. I don't know if I can particularly remember, but I'm sure there'll be plenty of people that can. So this is kind of my question to you personally. How big a part do you think the vehicles are going to play in Dead Matter?
I've always thought when you find a vehicle in a survival game, like the whole game just becomes so much more fun, because you've got something to work towards, and it also improves you in every way. Like you can move faster, you can store more things. It's like if you find a vehicle in DayZ, like whatever you were doing before, you want to stop doing that now and just focus on securing this vehicle.
Oh yeah, I can. I'm 100%
That's why
agree.
that's why we don't really want them to be too hard to get working in the first place. So if like pretty much as soon as you spawn, if you wanted to, your first goal can just be find a vehicle, get it working, and just drive around for a bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that a lot more than, you know, trying to build a vehicle over like 5 hours and then coming back to find that, you know, because you were missing like 1 or 2 pieces, someone's found the vehicle in the meantime and has repaired those last 1 or 2 pieces whilst you did all the rest, and pissed off with your favorite vehicle. Looking at you, DayZ. That was not a great time, but I do understand what you mean, and I get you know, wanting that progression and how it's going to change the game. I mean, aside from anything, it's going to mean that you can explore the map, right? Especially with Dead Matter, with it growing to the map size that it will over the period of development. Eventually we might find that we need a vehicle to get from place to place if we want to go and explore.
Yeah,
So,
pretty much
I
you
like
want you want to get the player off just the generic running around and looting as fast as possible, because it's really easy to get burnt out fast on that. It's like you want the players to find a vehicle, or you want them to secure a building, or go to the trader zone and start doing quests or whatnot. Just something different, so you're not just running around looting, killing zombies, killing players, and then dying, and then just resetting that all.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've all had our fair share of that, right? Over the past, with like other survival
I think we
games.
definitely have, yeah. I think it's
So I
been
think
a bit
those
too much of
unique, absolutely. I think those unique features, again, coming back to it, is just what's going to make it different. I think a lot of people are very skeptical about Dead Matter, and I think rightly so, because we've had so many disappointments, right?
Skeptical. Like, you would have to be insane. If you look at all the survival games in the past couple of years, you definitely would have to be cautious for any new games.
Yeah, because we're looking at what we've just talked about: loot, shoot people, shoot zombies, die, repeat over and over again, right? With very little else in the game. And I think it's just repetitive. It's got to the point now where nobody really looks for that. That's kind of just that has to be there. That has to be there. That's like bare minimum. And then everything else to make it a good game around it needs to be well done. And I think like the options we're going to have with vehicles, the progression we're going to have there, progression with tool belts, questing, base fortification, and kind of like the, you know, going out and scavenging things for that, the dynamic events, all of these things are going to make that game so different. And it's good to hear that the vehicles are going to play into that. I wanted to kind of ask you, before we move on to what I know everybody is thinking about watching this, which is the helicopters, trains, and planes. I want to ask you what the most difficult thing was for you in the project so far.
Most difficult by far is the flipping issue. Like, easily. Because it's just... I don't know, it's just one of those weird little things that's just so hard to configure right.
Just tweaking it to the right levels.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I might actually even end up creating like a test level, because you can edit the values at runtime. So even if we have all the values exposed and then just have people testing out their own setups and whatnot, we could actually get like community funded config settings for vehicles. Because even things like the turn speed, like your turn speed will be affected by your speed. It's like on like a little graph. So you even got to get that feeling right too. So if you're driving really fast, you might not be able to turn quickly enough. It's just little bits of config that are the annoying parts. But probably the hardest thing that I haven't done yet would be motorbikes, because I've never done something like that before. Because with motorbikes, you need a system to keep it upright versus a vehicle which works by itself because it's using 4 wheels instead of 2.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And I think with driving as well, like all of these things are going to come together. So like you say, with the turn speed being on a graph, right, you'd have to consider that feeling good, but at the same time you don't want to go fast enough as to where it can flip, and then you have to adjust the flip values, and then is that going to feel good? You know, like I think there's so many things that are connected together when you're looking at vehicles. I don't envy you for having to work on motorbikes as well. That sounds like an absolute pain in the ass. But
it's a fun little fact. Do you ever play PUBG back when it launched?
Yeah, I did.
Remember when they added motorbikes? Originally, they added the motorbike with a little carriage to the side.
Oh, yeah.
One of the reasons they did that originally was because it made it become a 3-wheeled motorbike instead of a 2-wheeled. And it really helped with it keeping upright until they really fleshed out their motorbike system.
I suppose that's a smart play, though, for the most part. Like, if you want to get it out there and people are asking for it, or it needs to go out with the rest of the vehicles, and you're not thinking you're going to have that system done anytime soon, I guess that gives you a way to do it. It's a good way to sneak it in without people realizing.
We know that things like just bicycles are definitely important for early game, but because they won't be in the game initially, I kind of want to substitute them with like tiny useless vehicles, whether they would be like little golf buggies or go-karts, or even we've got like a little ride-on lawnmower that you can drive around. So even if you're just using that to travel.
I like that a lot. I mean, the thing is, like, we laugh, right? But these are actual things you would find. Like, yeah, they wouldn't be like, let's say, for example, a golf cart wouldn't be like hugely common, but you're gonna find them. They're gonna be in the world, right? So if there's a golf course somewhere, there could be a golf cart. Lawnmowers, you know, people with big back gardens are gonna use these. So I mean, we laugh, but they could be useful, especially like you say, early game. So I like that you've thought that far, and you're kind of thinking about what you can substitute as well for the time being. I think early game is a very important part. That's fair to say.
The first experience is just like the most important thing. If your first like hour of gameplay is just running around and looting, you've pretty much failed already. Yeah.
No, I can understand that, because people want that progression, people want that immersion, people want something other to do, like we talked about. So moving on from that, I want to talk about what everybody's thinking about, and I know so many people that I know especially have been drawn in by this, which is the helicopters, trains, and planes. So for anybody that's unfamiliar, can you tell me when we're likely to see these in-game?
So the last one you'll see will be trains, purely because it just needs train tracks on the map. So we need the map really developed before we can even start thinking about trains.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first one you'll probably see will be small planes, like little crop dusters and whatnot. And then you'd see the helicopters after.
Cool. Okay. And we're looking at after the game has hit full release. Am I right?
Oh, well, it depends. Depends.
Hard to say. Okay.
Yeah, hard to say.
Cool.
Because a lot of
Okay.
even with planes and stuff, you still need quite a large area.
Hmm.
But helicopters, you could probably get away with on a small map just because of how easy they are to take off on land.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's interesting. It hadn't even come to my mind when you mentioned trains. Like, I was thinking, like, I wonder why they're waiting until full release. Is it just because they're incredibly complex? But when you think about it, you need a round circuit, right? You need a full working circuit, and obviously, if part of the map isn't there, then that train track isn't going to be complete, like you say. So
Trains
that's
are gonna be an
interesting to
one
know.
because I don't know if you'll really be able to claim like a train. Like it seems such like a communal thing because you can't really hide a train and whatnot. Like if you follow a train track, you're gonna come across a train eventually.
Yeah, that's true. I guess one of the options there would be if you could claim a train depot, or if that's the right word, like a place where you could pull them off onto another track that wasn't connected to the main track.
Because the problem we thought about is if you claimed a train and just parked it in the middle of the train tracks, that'd be a bit of a problem. So what you could do is take control of the train, drive it to one of like the little depot things, and then once it's parked in there, then you can turn it into like a mini base.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you can switch, you can switch tracks and make sure that if there were any trains passing by, they're on the main track, and when you want to pull the train off it, you switch to the other. And I guess that would be like a really neat, unique thing, having to have somebody pull that lever for you so you could move the train into the bay. But I think that's something interesting to consider at the very least. I think it would be cool.
It's definitely going to be one of the more experimental features.
Absolutely.
Like I feel like we can design a lot for it, but I think until we actually get it in and people are testing it, we have no idea how it's going to go down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've ever seen that before, so that's like completely understandable. There's nothing we can relate that to at the minute, and it just has to be one of those things that's tested, right? But still a very interesting concept to think about, because we're going to have all these base options, right? I think people are very, or some people at least, it depends what background you come from. Some people are very worried about the basing system, right? Like they want to be able to build stuff. They want to be able to choose where they put up a building and things like that. But in reality, we're getting a lot of options. And one of the things we didn't talk about earlier with regards to driving around vehicles is that we can use those trailers as a mobile base, right? We can take that out into the woods or something and set up with our supplies and carry around more stuff. We can bring our vehicles and with us as a form of mobile base and just set up a camp instead.
Yeah, so we're not sure whether you can make like a fully fleshed out base with the vehicles, but we at least want you to be able to have features that you can have in your base, like in a motorhome or something. The main problem is with vehicles, they're quite dynamic, and you would hate to log in and your base has just disappeared. So whether or not we add in some sort of like anchoring or locking mechanism when you set up your base, just so another player can't just ram your base and it'll just go flying away.
Yeah, I can imagine that being an issue.
That's kind of the main reason why I'm leaving that to later, because I just don't want that on launch day. People trying to set up the base and then just flies away.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's completely understandable, but I mean, we've at least got this like idea in our heads that we're not just going to be limited to pick a building, fortify it. We're eventually going to have quite a lot of options with regards to what buildings we pick. You know, there's going to be more than just houses for us to choose from. We've potentially got the ability to drive a vehicle out into the woods, use that as storage, and set up a tent and a fire and something in the area. We've got trains to talk about as well. You know, there's a lot of options for us to consider. And I think we mentioned helicopters and planes, and although they're not going to be a base option, it's still going to be interesting to see what we are able to do with them. With a map that's, you know, full size. So I wanted to talk about kind of how rare these forms of transport are going to be. So forgetting cars, forgetting all of those, how rare are helicopters, trains, and planes going to be on the map?
In terms of the train rarity, even if we made it rare, that'd still be pretty easy to find because you can't really hide a train. It's going to be on the train track somewhere.
Yeah.
For planes, I kind of don't want to make them too rare, just because of kind of how useless planes are. Like, pretty much, they're like helicopters, except they're worse at traveling. Like, you need a substantial area to take off and land for them. That's why we kind of want to stick with smaller aircraft, just so we don't need a huge runway every time you want to take off and land. Like, if you got a little crop duster, if you see a field out in the distance, if you're skilled enough, you can just land in the field.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think when you think about it as well, really, like, planes like those are just going to be used for travel, right? Like, we're not realistically going to be able to throw loads of supplies in them.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't be trying that. And then in terms of helicopters, I want to make them rare, but not too rare. But I miss back in the DayZ mod days, if you found a helicopter, you would just drop everything you're doing to repair and just secure that helicopter.
Absolutely.
I kind of want to try to get that feeling again. Like, if you see a helicopter, you just want to dedicate all your resources to get that working. Because, I mean, once you have a helicopter, those things are just so damn overpowered.
I mean, they are, yeah, because you can all of a sudden, you can go to the places on the map where you know there's going to be good stuff, or anything you need, right? You no longer have to face that issue of, well, how am I going to get there? How long is it going to take me to get there? What am I going to have to do there and back? You know, like, am I going to have to take enough supplies? Things become much easier because of how much faster it is. You know, all of a sudden, you can get to somewhere really quickly. You have a really good option to travel from multiple places very quickly. You don't have to worry about terrain, roads, you know, you just go straight over it. So I definitely think that those are the most useful, potentially, but then again, we've never seen trains in before, so that'll be something interesting to see. Okay, so I understand that outside of vehicles as well, and this is kind of just like I guess a closing area for us to talk about. Outside of vehicles, you're also undergoing a passover with the interaction system right now. So, firstly, can you tell me a bit more about what that interaction system actually is and what it includes?
Pretty much, it's how the player interacts with things around them.
Okay.
So not necessarily like UI options and whatnot. It's like you walk up to a vehicle, and if there's a door there, you'd either press F to hop in the vehicle or hold F just to open the door. And then once you're in the vehicle, if you look around, you might see the radio, and then like options will pop up to use the radio and whatnot. So kind of semi-immersive systems for interaction.
Yeah.
The main thing with that is that there's just so many things you can do. So we're definitely going to be trying to get a lot of feedback on that.
That would be cool. Okay, go ahead.
For example, with vehicles, to turn on the vehicle, you could have it as a hotkey on your keyboard to like hold R to turn on the engine. Or what you could do is you could maybe have to look at a certain part of your steering wheel and then press a button to turn on the engine. There's just lots of little things that, a lot of people like and a lot of people don't. So it's just trying to find a good balance.
Yeah, I can see that. I always, in survival games, I always appreciate the option to be able to turn off my engine. That's one thing I do like.
Going to have is the ability just to turn on the vehicle, but not fully, like not ignite the vehicle, just so you can use like the lights and whatnot, or listen to the radio without the engine on.
Yeah,
and then also gives the opportunity of having dead batteries.
Okay.
Because who wouldn't like to jumpstart their vehicle in a game?
In the middle of the zombie apocalypse, when you're at a gas station in the middle of the night, yeah, love it.
Hop on the radio, try and get a friendly survivor to come with some jumper cables.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting. I like that. I'm sure you probably realized by now, I really like brainstorming these like scenarios in my head of like what could happen and what kind of interactions we could have. So I really like that, being able to like call out to other people on the radio and hope that somebody comes and helps you rather than takes your stuff, if that's like your last ditch effort. But I think I really like the idea of these little things, like, but I can understand why you want community feedback, because I think so many people have so many different opinions on that sort of thing. Like, some people would rather just hop in the vehicle and go, right? But like others, I think, would appreciate those options to turn the engine off, or and just let it coast, for example, or like you say, turning the lights on, turning the radio on without striking up the ignition. All of those things kind of add to the depth. I especially like the idea of like having to look at like let's say your keys in the ignition, or look at the certain part of the steering wheel, and like then, you know, maybe there being an animation for putting the keys in the ignition and turning it, or something like that. And I know that's like really in depth, and some people might not like that, but to me that's another unique thing that a lot of games haven't done. The only thing I can think of that's been done is like you press your button to turn on the engine, and that's it. The engine's on. So I like the idea of having that. It
looks
system.
really immersive, but at the same time, if you do it too much, then your game kind of becomes like Surgeon Simulator, where you have to look at, press each thing individually.
Absolutely. No, I can understand that for sure. So I think community feedback is going to be a big thing for you. So with that in mind, and we have talked about this briefly before we took this interview, guys, if you are watching and you're thinking, I don't like that, or okay, that's interesting, I have an idea for that, please comment in the comment section below with how you would feel about that. What do you think with regards to the interaction system of vehicles? Do you want this to be an easy thing? Do you want there to be a few more options involved? What do you like? What do you don't like? Please tell us below in the comments. I know Biscuits is very eager to get some feedback on that from the community, so please do. And yeah, I think if you guys have any ideas with regards to that, hopefully the team can take it on board, and maybe we'll see some cool things kind of added to the game as a result. Is there anything that, I guess as well, that you kind of wanted the community to give some feedback on with regards to some of the work you're on right now? Is there anything you can think about that you would like them to maybe give their opinions on so far?
If anyone has any suggestions on, even if it's just like a tiny little feature, you guys really should hop onto the forums and make a forum post about it. Because a lot of these tiny little things, they're not necessarily hard to add, but it's mainly just thinking about them and brainstorming that really kind of gets your brain going.
Yeah. Could people... sorry, go on.
A lot of the things, like, I think with the inventory system, how someone suggested to have damaged cells. Like, that was an amazing suggestion. And we can use that for vehicles too. Like, if you find a vehicle, the storage compartment might be damaged, so you might have damaged cells in that. So that could be another thing you'd have to repair. Just a lot of little tiny things, which they don't seem big on their own, but once you start adding them all up, it really makes for a good game.
Yeah, I mean, it's all those little things that come together to make that experience, right? So, I definitely can get behind that. Guys, if you have anything like that, do you have a place for that on the Discord as well, Biscuits, or is it just the forums?
The forums is good because it doesn't really get lost in chat. But if it's just a tiny thing you want to mention, usually there is someone looking at the Discord. So, and usually someone will pick up on it. Mainly, if you've got like kind of a suggestion you want to flesh out, the forums is good.
Okay, absolutely. All right, so we'll say forums, Discord. Failing that, guys, if you want to put it in the comments for the YouTube video, at the very least, I will be keeping an eye on that, and I can certainly take it to Biscuits if there's anything like any of these suggestions going around. Biscuits, thank you very much for talking to me, and the vehicles sound really, really cool. I'm really excited
I still hope they're good. I really hope.
I'm sure they will be, dude. I'm sure they will be. I think that we've talked about a lot of games, and it seems like you have like this idea in your head that you want to make them like a big part of that survival experience, and I really like that, because in so many games they just feel like once you have them, that's it. There's too many of them, or like it's not a big deal. And to me, it should be, because like you've said, it's such like in DayZ and games like that, it's such a big thing. Like once you get it, you're instantly more effective. You can travel to places you haven't been. And I think Dead Matter especially, we're going to have like that exploration kind of thing in place with things moving around the map, you know, like these dynamic events that we could have, questing different factions. We want to get around the map a little bit. So absolutely 100% think that you're going to do a good job of that. And yeah, thank you very much for talking to me.
No worries. Thanks again.